Hello everyone, my name is Kirti and I am an assistant professor in ITM. Today I am going to cover the topic that is competency of the parties to the contract. This is part 5th in business law. So according to section 10, all agreements are contract if they are made by the free consent of the parties to contract for a lawful consideration and with a lawful object and are not hereby expressly declared to be void. Therefore, one of the essential elements of a valid contract is that contracting parties must be competent to contract. Competency party means a person or organization having the required legal capacity to enter into a binding contract. So, according to section 11 of the Act, every person is competent to contract who is the age of majority according to the law to which he is subject, the person is of sound mind, and third is not disqualified from contracting by any law to which he is subject. So therefore the contractual capacity is basically defined in relation to age, soundness of mind and legal qualification. According to section 11, the following persons are incompetent to contract. Number 1 is minors, second person of unsound mind, and third one is person disqualified from any law to which is they are subject. Next is who is minor. So according to section 3rd of Indian Contract Act 1875, a minor is a person who has not attained the age of 18 years. Then move to rules relating to an agreement with a minor. Now section 10 defines the parties to contract must be competent. Section 11 of the Indian Contract Act declares that a minor is not competent. Therefore, the first rule says the law protects minor against their own inexperience and against the possible improper designs of those more experienced. And second rule says the law should not cause unnecessary hardship to person who deal with minors. Now move to minor agreement. Number 1, an agreement with a minor is void ab initio, therefore it is inoperative. Right? So the case has been held and the decision has been taken in this case. The case name is Mori Bibi versus Dharmadas Ghosh. So an agreement with a minor has been held to be a void ab initio. He is supposed to be incapable of making the judgment what is good for him and what is bad for him. His mental status are not mature and therefore law protect him. The case is Mori Bibi versus Dharmadas Ghosh says that Dharmadas Ghosh, a minor, executed a mortgagee for rupees 20,000, declared himself major and received rupees 8,000 from Mori Bibi, a mortgagee. Right. Then subsequently the minor sued for setting aside the mortgage on the plea of his minority when the mortgage was executed. Held the mortgage was void ab initio and even the money actually lent could not be recovered. However, the minor may enforce the agreement against the other party who he has carried out his obligation. Now move to second, no ratification. So no ratification means the minor cannot ratify the agreement or attaining the age of majority which he has entered into in the age of minority. Next is minor can plead minority to avoid contract. Yes, minor can plead the minority to avoid the contract. Right? The rule of estoppel does not apply in the case of minor. Even he has by misrepresenting his age induced the other party to contract with him. He cannot be sued either in contract or in tort of fraud, because if the injured party was allowed to sue for fraud, it would be giving him an indirect means of enforcing the void agreement. Right? Next is a minor is not liable to restore the property or goods. Minor can be compelled if the goods are traceable in his possession. If the minor has sold the goods, then nothing can be claimed. Next is no specific performance, means actual performance of the contract as agreed as contract is void ab initio, right? So the contract is void ab initio. Passive performance is one of the remedies available to an aggrieved party in case of the breach of a contract. It means actual carrying out of the contract is agreed. A minor agreement being void cannot be specifically enforced. Next is minor cannot be a promisee or a beneficiary. Minor can be a promisee or a beneficiary. Yes, when the minors bear no obligation, rather the agreement is for his benefit, then such agreement is valid. Next is minor as a partner. Yes, minor cannot become a partner in the partnership, but he can inherit the benefits of the partnership with the consent of all the parties. Minor is liable to losses but not from his personal property. Next, minor as an agent. Yes, minors can become an agent. The principal shall be bound for the act of the minor agent. Next is minor cannot be adjudged as insolvent even for the necessary. His property is liable, but he is not personally liable. Right. Then position of a surety. When in contract of the guarantee a major stands surety on behalf of the minor, then major would be liable because he becomes the surety of the minor. Next is minor liability for necessary. Minor is liable to pay a reasonable price for the necessary supplied to him. His property is liable, but he is not personally liable. Next is position of minor parents. The parents are not liable for the contract entered into by the minor himself. They are liable only if the minor is their agent, right? So the parents are not personally liable whatever the contract has been made by the minor. Like the person cannot say you are the parents and you have to be liable. No, parents are not liable, but if they are working as an agent or minor is the agent of their parents, that's why the parents is liable. But otherwise the parents is not liable as against any contract made by the minor. Next, minor is a shareholder. Minor cannot become a shareholder, but fully paid up share may be transmitted to him through his lawful guardians, right? Then a minor is liable in tort, so or civil loan, but minor is liable in tort. But where a tort arises out of the contract, a minor is not liable in the tort as indirect way of enforcing invalid contract, right? So minor is liable in a tort civil wrong committed by him unless the tort is in reality a breach of contract. However, if a minor in the course of doing what is entitled to do under the contract is found guilty of negligence, he cannot be made liable for a civil wrong if he is not liable on the contract. A minor is liable for pays necessary supplied or services rendered to him whom he is legally bound to support. Next, minor liability for necessaries. Necessary is not confined to food, clothing, shelter, but is also include articles or services which are reasonably necessary for a minor suitable to his conditions in life. A watch or bicycle may be necessary for a minor, of course. Following are the considered as necessary: for saving his property from sale in execution, for marriage of a minor, for the marriage of a sister, Shraddh ceremony of the ancestor, rent of house taken by the minor. So these are the considered as the necessary things. And the following are the things which are not necessary: cigar and tobacco, refreshment for entertainment, a gift, silver gift. A minor would not be personally liable for reimbursement of necessary. However, his property is liable for reasonable price for necessary. Now, what are the services essential for the minors? Education, medical help, legal advice, training for advice. Also liable to pay loan for necessary. Now move to person of unsound mind. So a person is said to be of sound mind if he is making a potential business contract, if right he is capable of understanding and making a rational judgment as to its effect upon his interest, right? So according to section 12, a person is of sound mind of the purpose of making a contract at that time when he makes it capable of understanding and forming a rational judgment as to its effect upon its interest. Unsoundness may be categorized as idiot, lunatic, and drunkenness. Idiot means has completely lost his mental powers, right? Lunatic means it is a disease of the brain. A lunatic loses the use of his reason due to some mental strain or disease, right? So the person loses capacity due to the illness of brain and mental bodily distress. And drunkenness means intoxication. It produces a temporary incapacity, right? Person disqualified from contracting. That one, number one is alien enemy. Alien enemy, a person who is not an Indian is known as alien, right? He may be either an alien friend or alien enemy. An alien enemy living in India can enter into the contract with citizen of India during peace time only, and that is subject to any restriction imposed by the government in that respect, right? Next is foreign sovereigners and ambassadors. So they have some special privileges and generally cannot be sued unless they of their own submit of the jurisdiction of our law courts, right? Then move to corporations. So corporations contract in ultra vires. It's not like corporations, like if their memorandum of understanding says you can do that, so they can do that according to the memorandum of association or the provision of the special act. Next is insolvent. So when a person is declared insolvent, it is only the official receiver or official assignee who can enter into the contract relating to his property and sue and be sued on his behalf. Therefore, as soon as the person is declared insolvent, he loses his contractual capacity. After the order of discharge, he is competent to enter the contract. Next is convict. A person cannot enter into the contract if he is undergoing imprisonment. Therefore, his incapacity is only during the period of sentence. Next is joint stock company and incorporation in a specified act. We already discussed this. It cannot enter the contract outside the power conferred upon its memorandum of association by the provision of a special act. So the company is an artificial person created by law having a legal existence apart from its member. It may come into existence by a special act of legislature or by registration under the Companies Act 1956. So they cannot go beyond the powers of their MOA and provision of the special act, right? Next is married women. So according to section 4 of the Married Women Act 1874, a married woman is competent to make a contract with respect of her personal property including alimony, provided they are major and are of sound mind. They cannot enter in the contract with respect to their husband property. A married woman can, however, act as an agent of her husband and bind her husband property for necessary supply to her if he fails to provide her with this facility, right? So that's all for today. Okay, I hope everything has to be clear. Thank you so much.